Medicaid funds long-term supports and services in many different ways, and one things that states really need to work on is making sure that funds are going to support those home and community-based services, because those are the services that individuals with disabilities and their families want. We don't have to guess at that. We know that, because if people didn't want those home and community-based services, they wouldn't be willing to wait on waiting lists for those services. Because of what I talked about earlier about mandatory versus optional services in Medicaid, mandatory services, including in my home state of Illinois, where there are still 7 institutions open that are providing services that really families don't want anymore, they have a 20,000 person waiting list. Any of those individuals could go into one of those 7 institutions at any time, but they would rather wait for decades, literally, for those home and community-based services. So something that the CCD, LTSS task force, and disability advocates all over the country are working on is making sure that we put home and community-based services on equal footing with institutional services. Home and community-based services, if they were made mandatory, for example, and that's something that the CCD, LTSS task force and a lot of groups are working on, there would not be waiting lists for those services. Also, for example, I have a brother with a disability. He lives in Illinois. If he wanted to move here move to Virginia, for example, where there is a waiting list, he would lose all the services that he has in Illinois. If we made home and community-based services mandatory, he could move wherever he wanted, whether it was for a job or just to be closer to family. These are all things that would change if we really looked at what families want. And so really that's what the CCD LTSS task force is working on, and also getting more funding into states for rebalancing through the Money Follows the Person program. This is a program that disability advocates have been working on in a bipartisan way for decades. It came out of work that the disability community did. The Money Follows the Person program is a program that provides additional federal funding for states to move individuals with disabilities and aging individuals out of institutional settings and back into the community if they choose to do that. It has so far moved 91,000 individuals since it became law in 2005, and it's a program that we continue to get short-term reauthorizations, but we need a long-term fix. Those are some of the issues that the CCD LTSS task force are working on, as well as how do we improve rates, Medicaid rates, to support better wages for employees who are working with individuals with disabilities to provide these home and community-based services.